Welcome to This Is Whole Life, a podcast from the Whole Life Church in Orlando, Florida.
Join me, Ken Wetmore, lead pastor, and Melanie Bachman, our worship pastor, along with our communication team, Randy and Lucas. Take a look back, a look deeper, and a peek into the week ahead.
Here we explore meaningful conversations about spirituality, community, and living with purpose.
We don't have all the answers, but we are walking the journey together.
Wherever you're listening from, you're wanted here.
This is Whole Life.
Hey there, everybody. You're expecting to hear Randy McGray, but you know what? Randy decided to take a day off. Not because he wanted to, but because Mother Nature decided. So welcome to This Is Whole Life with your part-time host, Ken Wetmore here. I'll be asking myself questions today, but don't worry, I have other help here. Right across from me is Lucas. Lucas, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Awesome. Yep, awesome. And then to my right, Miss Melanie Bachman.
Greetings.
That's all today, Melanie? Without Randy here, we need a little bit more from you. You're gonna have to step up a little bit here.
I put on a little more energy today.
Please. And thank you.
All right.
I love it.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah, we're not missing you at all, Randy. Not at all. So welcome to the show. We are Randy is out feeling not well. And so normally Randy would kind of be all ready to go and telling us what to do. And so today we just had to figure out what we were going to do ourselves.
He'd probably be saying this is episode 522. And
oh, yeah, he probably would say that.
He'd probably say something like, we're in Orlando, Florida, and every week we dig a little deeper into the message.
Ooh, yeah. You'd probably say that. He'd probably also say something about our listening numbers are going up. And
thank you so much for sharing with your friends.
Yeah, all that good stuff. So... yeah, I have some things to learn, Melanie. But don't worry.
We all have things to learn.
We'll get there eventually.
We do this intentionally so that Randy will make sure he comes back.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. So, all right. Anyway, so with that said, we will dive into this week's message that I preached because why not? And it was actually a fun one for me. We started our new series, Favorite Things. This is a series where I asked you, those of you who are part of our church, who are there for services, maybe you're online, to send me your favorite Bible verse or passage or story. And then over the summer, I will preach a sermon on it. And Melanie, we just locked in all of our sermons, literally just before we came in here. They're all locked in.
So great job submitting your favorite things.
Yeah, we were worried there for a minute that we were only going to get one or two, but then poof. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to send apologies to a few people that you sent in a great Bible verse, but you were it came a little bit later, and I had other people who turned theirs in first. So
yeah, it doesn't mean it might not show up somewhere else, though. So.
You know what? That's the truth. And by the way, we have absolutely the smartest, the best church friends and family members of Whole Life, because they have some of the best Bible verses and thoughts that go along with them. It's really exciting.
I'm really looking forward to this week. Especially, last week's was fun. Next week is going to be fun.
Should we give a spoiler of who is asking the question this week?
Ooh.
Let's do it at the end.
Okay.
Let's throw that out at the end. Let's throw it out at the end. It is a really good one, though, Melanie. It was actually a Bible passage I had never studied before, and the person who submitted it taught me something new, and then I've researched it further. So I'm really excited. Yeah, super excited. Good. We'll come back to that.
Yep.
This week, Ken Bradley, is Ken the person who has been a member at Whole Life the longest?
If not the longest, very close, I would say. He's among the elite few. We
won't go into how old he is because that doesn't seem maybe like the appropriate thing, Ken. But we'll just say that Ken was born into this church. His parents were the first couple married at the Winya Chapel.
Wow.
Back when Whole Life met at went over at Lake Winya. And Ken and his wife Ruth were the last couple that were married at that site before the building that we're currently in was built.
That is really cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a little fun fact for you. And I believe, Ken, you can correct me if I'm wrong later on, but I do believe that Ken's parents were actually charter members of the Whole Life Church. I think that when it began, maybe they were. Maybe I'm making that one up. But you know what? What's the fun of having a podcast if you can't make stuff up?
And besides that, I think given all the information we have thus far, you don't get any more bona fide than that.
Yeah.
So it just seemed like the right person to start the series off with. And Ken told us that his favorite Bible verse is Romans 12:21. And he's very particular about which version of the Bible you read it from. He really likes the Phillips Bible. And if you're not familiar with this verse, let me read it to you so that you can hear it. And it's going to be actually a little bit of verse 20 put in with verse 21. Actually, no, we'll just go with it. Verse 21, Phillips translation says, "Don't allow yourself to be overpowered with evil. Take the offensive. Overpower evil by good." And Ken, in his little video that he did that kind of shared the verse he was picking and why he was picking it, said that the reason why he likes the Phillips translation so much is because it says that take the offensive. It's not a passive thing, that it's a very active form of overpowering evil by good. You don't just sit back, you actually take the offensive, and good is
good is a verb.
Yeah, it's a verb, and so it's a good thing. So that's what I had the privilege of preaching on this week. And for those of you who kind of wonder sometimes, what do you do when you're researching for the sermon? How does that work out? What do you think about? One of the important things for me is to be reading a lot of books all the time. And probably about a year and a half ago, I would say, I read a book called Dominion by Tom Holland, who's a just very well-respected historian. And
I still have to read that one. I'm going to have to add it to my list while we're talking about it.
You haven't read it yet?
I still haven't.
Oh, it's so good. It is really excellent. Highly recommend this book. It is kind of a thick book. I'll kind of say that.
Forget it. I don't do thick books.
And by that, Melanie means that's all she ever does. Melanie can read through some of these books that I'm like, oh, it's 800 pages long. Oh, yeah, I'll be done with that by the end of the day.
It's not like she has a library in her office, right?
Oh, let me just tell you, when she lived in Nashville, the house that they lived in Nashville, which Rochelle actually, I think we've said this before on the podcast, but Rochelle during the pandemic actually got to spend quality time with Tim and Melanie because we had a child with COVID in our home, and she was a teacher, and so she had to be quarantined away or else she couldn't teach, and so she
occupied our guest room. She
occupied Tim and Melanie's
several
guest
weeks.
room.
I don't remember how long. It was fun.
In their house in Nashville, there was a huge room that was completely library.
Yeah, it was just books. Just books. And when I asked you to move here, I thought that would probably be the biggest inhibitor of you coming and joining us, was having to pack all those books. Yeah, there were 28 boxes of books that we brought with us. How much did each the movers book? How much? Loved it. What was your weight limit on those boxes? I don't know. I had the guy come and walk around and guesstimate. So, and it was one of those deals where if it ended up weighing more than he estimated, then they didn't charge us anymore. So I was really grateful for that clause. Did he see the book room before he? He did. Indeed, okay, yes. Well, that's on him then. So, whatever happened there happened. So I read that book like a year and a half ago, and when I was preparing for this sermon, as I was reading through, one of the things I'll usually do, especially on probably a lot with this series, because I'm preaching on people's specific verses, and one of the things that they'll teach you to do in your homiletics class is to take the text and exegete it, which means you're going to go through and you're going to dig deep into everything that's going on there. You're going to look at the words that are used in the original language. You're going to look at how they're used in other places in the Bible, how they're used often very particularly in that particular book of the Bible. You're going to dig into the background that's going on at that time, at that place, what's happening in the world as this is being written, and what's happening. What are some of the background assumptions that the author of the book might have that you could look into? So there's a lot of things that you're going to do with these texts. And so as I'm doing that prep work on this particular one, Tom Holland's book really came to my mind, because
dominion the book that he wrote has a lot to do with what this text is. And Tom's overall big hypothesis of his book, from my point of view, is basically that Christianity has been transformational in the world with changing the way the world views power. And by that, what I would say to that is that basically prior to Christianity, might made right, and I know that we feel that way sometimes today too, but back then it was actually celebrated. Like today, when you see people oppressing, there's usually at least you shouldn't be doing that. That's not right.
It depends on who you ask and whether or not you can couch it in some sort of religious,
Right, but basically, Tom makes the argument that the philosophy of turning the other cheek, the philosophy of doing good to your enemies, has become very embedded in our culture to a way that most of us don't even recognize. The civil rights movement, that while there are a lot of Christians that were opposing the civil rights movement, Tom makes the argument that it was ultimately Christianity's bedrock foundational principles that was the reason why there was able to be a change for better in civil rights. Same thing with slavery. Same thing with a lot of the different problems that we've seen in the world, that Christianity, there's parts of Christianity that will go along with it, that will propagate it, but then there's the overwhelming Christ side of things that pushes back against that and says, no. That's not who we are, and that's not what we do. And
I'm super curious now. I'm going to have to go read this book, because it seems like Christianity, if it can get itself married to politics, or it can get itself married to economics, or if it can get itself married to manifest destiny, then power, like that is the driving force of it. And it seems like there is a smaller contingency of people who are trying to keep the I don't know, whatever, the teachings of Jesus and the real upside down kingdom aspect of Christianity alive. I'm curious how he sees that as the overwhelming majority.
I think what he's going to tell you, when you read the book for yourself. Firstly, I highly recommend it to everybody. Just read the book. It's a really interesting book. And what I think is the fascinating part about it is that when Tom is writing this book, he's not a apologist for Christianity.
Right.
He is a secular agnostic historian writing a book about the impact that Christianity has had on the world. Mm-hmm. And so he's not trying to be an apologist for, hey, we've done a few bad things here and there, but overall we're a great, Christianity's great. He's an honest historian writing a history of the impact that Christianity has had on the world. And as he concludes the book, he just talks about how baked in these concepts of doing good to your enemies are into Christianity, to the point that most people in our world, people who don't even consider themselves Christian, are living by principles that are Christian or that are Christ teachings. For example, maybe one of the examples might be like Mahatma Gandhi, who, not a Christian, but loved Christ's teachings and really embraced them and used them in his movement. Mm-hmm. And so Tom kind of really makes the argument that these Christian values, these Christian ideas have really permeated to the point where people don't even realize it. I don't know if he uses this particular story, but it's the metaphor, or no, I'm sorry, analogy. I'll get it there eventually. About two fish that are swimming through the water, and another fish comes along and goes, "How's the water today, boys?" and swims off. And one of the fish looks at the other fish and goes, what's water? Because it's like, it's just,
that's what you're swimming in.
It's just what
you know.
And that's really what Tom argues, is that Christianity and Christianity's values are the water that the world is swimming in today for the most part. And we don't even recognize how big an influence they've had on everything that's going on. And so when I started thinking about, this whole idea of overcoming evil with good, the real question that did jump into my head right off the beginning was, well, is that really a true thing?
Yeah.
Because I've had several people come to me over the last couple years and tell me that it's like, I don't think that's working. I think that evil is growing and good is getting removed, is getting pushed out. And is it really truly possible for good to really truly overcome? And so really that was what this sermon was about. Is that possible? Is it? And when I was preparing for the sermon and writing it, I really feel convinced myself that good does overcome evil. Trying to do evil to combat evil is like trying to create darkness to combat darkness. It doesn't work as well as we might want to think it would. And what we see, I think that we kind of can see this played out in the Middle East. We see where one side does something, so the other does something more vicious, and then the other side does something, and it's this back and forth. And the more harm you do, it isn't resolving the issue. Now, one can argue, have we tried to do good and make a difference? And I think that there have been some points in the Middle East history where we have seen that, and it does briefly work until violence breaks out and takes out the person that's trying to do that good. And so, yeah, I don't know if that makes my point or not, but
I was going to say, we were doing so well.
Up to a point. But I think the bottom line that I came to, though, is, do I want to be the person that repays evil with evil, that fights evil with evil? Or even if I lose, would I rather be the person who does good and loses, rather being the person that perpetrates more evil in this world? And so for me, that's where I'm at. I don't know whether my sermon changed any minds or opened up other thought processes or not, but that's kind of where I came to at the end of it. And sometimes when we preach for ourselves.
Oh, that's what I always do.
Yeah. So, Lucas, any questions come in from this sermon?
Yeah, we did have some questions. So the first question is it possible for goodness to permanently overcome evil in this life, or will evil always remain present in the world?
So from a Seventh-day Adventist theological perspective, there will always be evil in this world until Jesus shows up. And in fact, probably an Adventist theological position is going to say that evil is going to increase as we get closer to Jesus' return. So will there always be evil in this world? I would actually say yes, but I think that what we have to be very careful about, and this is one of the things that sometimes worries me about a theological position that I don't necessarily disagree with, but that sometimes worries me, is that I think that sometimes discourages people from doing good. And it's like, well, things are just going to get worse anyway. And I think that it's really important for us as Christians to do the good that we know we can do. Whether we think that it will be successful or not, I don't think is the point. I think the point is to do the right thing because it is the right thing, to do the good that God would want us to do because it is good.
Yeah, it is difficult sometimes to find the energy to do good when it seems like it's in the face of futility. But we were having a conversation on Saturday afternoon, and kind of talking about some of these things. Do we think we're ever going to see progress in this area or this area? And I think that we can look throughout history and see the impact of people who have done good in a particular place for a particular thing, and have had lasting positive impact even in the face of what could be considered overwhelming evil. So I think having the mindset that we were actually created for good, for purposes of good, can be a motivating factor for us to do good in a world that seems overwhelmed by evil. And there's something about being part of a resistance, just even resisting the evil around us and doing good. And I think it takes a particular kind of courage to be able to push back against something that seems so big. But I think that the differences that can be made, they might be small differences, but they're still differences.
I think that it would have been easy during World War II when so many people really did resist what Hitler was doing. And it would have been easy for Oskar Schindler to think, I'm not going to make that big of a difference, so I'm not going to bother. Or, some of the other people that we brought up. And yet they did make a huge difference. It was a huge difference to those people that they helped and that they served. And were they able to stop a horrendous event? No, they didn't stop it, but they stopped it for the people that they were able to rescue. And so I think that that's one of the important things for us to remember is we might not be able to get rid of all the evil in the world, but we can push it back. We can push back the bad things through resisting it and through acts of goodness.
Interesting. Can some of the evil things that happen, do they need to happen so good things can, happen and make those things seem a little smaller?
Oh.
Do we need to have evil so that good can be shown to be good?
Yeah, you say it better.
That's a big question, Lucas. Take it away,
Wow,
Ken.
that is a philosophical one. Was that one that was submitted to us?
No,
Then we're not answering. No,
well, actually, this was sent by.
that Lucas, that's an interesting question. It's actually Melanie, back me up or tell me I'm wrong, but this, if I'm thinking correctly, this is a major theological question: is that does God need evil so that God can be proved to be good?
I mean, well, yeah, I guess it depends on which theological framework you're looking through, but I does God need evil? It almost, it could be argued that way because God allowed evil to be introduced into a situation, and we talk about the great controversy and how there's this great cloud of witnesses and they're all watching to see how God's character is vindicated. It almost would seem like God said, well, if there's evil, then I will be able to demonstrate my character.
It does seem like at the very beginning, God tells Adam and Eve not to eat from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because in the day that they do, their eyes will be opened and they will know the difference between good and evil. So it feels like that good and evil have always been a thing. However, it appears that God didn't create Adam and Eve to understand what evil was and to have to understand and experience the pain and suffering that evil creates. So if I'm arguing it, and this sounds like probably a full nother sermon on this, I think my argument is
this is a whole nother book.
Yeah, I think my argument is that you don't need evil to appreciate good. However, if you've experienced evil, you might appreciate good more than you would have if you'd never experienced evil. Because I think that you don't, whatever your favorite dessert is, I don't think you need to eat something horrible to think that great thing that you ate was delicious and wonderful.
Yeah.
But if you ate something horrible and then had the chance to have your favorite dish, maybe that favorite dish tastes a little bit better.
Yeah, that's a huge question. I think we need a whole big long conversation.
Yeah, it sounds like a panel discussion for
discussion.
Something.
Yeah,
we'll have to think about that.
All right.
All right. Second question: can a Christian ask God to avenge them like David did?
I do it all the time.
Answer is yes.
I figure if David can, I can. And he was a man after God's own heart.
The apple of God's eye.
And yet, one of the things, can I just say, as somebody who's trying to grow in Jesus' grace and love, one of the things I'm trying to learn is to ask God to do what's best for that person. But I also sometimes ask God to go ahead and not allow that person to continue to wreak havoc and create pain.
I, on a regular basis, ask God to do what's best for that person's victims.
To crush their bones and whatever else.
Between the teeth of lions.
And stuff like that. So,
yeah.
But you know what, though? I think sometimes in the pain of experiences, there's a very, I think when we read some of what David writes, we're peeking into his private journal. And I think in the rawness of the moment, there's things that we can say to God that maybe after we've had a chance to reflect and, things kind of calm down a little bit, that we were like, well, I don't know if that's exactly the way I would write it now, but it's definitely how I felt in the moment. And so I think that one of the things that we can feel safe doing is taking our real feelings to God and telling him what we want, and then trusting him to do what's best.
No, I don't have to wait till they're sanitized.
Yeah.
All right. The last question I have here is, definitely people thought that Jesus, when he came for the first time, was going to destroy Rome and build a new kingdom. But some people think the second coming will be the same way, that Jesus will come and destroy everything. Why would we think differently about the second coming?
Than the first?
Yeah.
Great question. Again, probably another where that question is dipping is into an area that we will call universalism, which is a school of thought that God will not destroy everyone, that eventually everybody accepts God's grace and everybody winds up in heaven, because God is a God of love, and according to that thought process and that theological understanding, God is not a God that's bloodthirsty and is going to just kill tons and tons of people just to do that, or exterminate tons and tons of people. If that theological construct happens to be right, I'm not going to be upset about it. But what I would say is that from my viewpoint, God puts a pretty high premium on freedom of choice. And I don't believe that God would force people to be somewhere they don't want to be. And again, my universalist friends will come back and say, well, everybody would want to be in heaven. I don't know. I know quite a few people that I would say I don't think would feel very happy in a place where they had to be kind and loving and unselfish. I don't think that would be heaven for some people. And so for me, when I look at it, I don't look at it as God going on some vindictive extermination campaign to pay back the people who have ticked him off. I look at God just simply honoring people's decision. And if people want to live in love as is described in 1 Corinthians 13, then I believe God wants people to be with him in heaven. But if that's not what they're willing to do, if they want to continue to inflict pain and suffering on others and they want to live that way, then I think God says, okay, I understand you have the right to choose that, but you don't have the right to perpetrate that. And so then God says, okay, so we're going to put an end to it. And I don't believe in a vengeful hellfire where God tortures people for being naughty and like you are bad, so I'm going to make you burn a little bit longer to make you suffer a little bit more. I believe that God just simply turns out the lights and that's it. And there's people are gone. They don't know anything. They're not suffering. They just cease to exist. That's my own personal take, and it may be a little bit different than other people's takes on that, but I'm going to stand by that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So yeah, these were all the questions. What we have coming up this Saturday, should we give the name of the person?
You remembered, didn't you? All right.
Yes.
So this week is Cecilia Maxon, and Cecilia has picked a verse out of the book of Psalms, and I don't have it right in front of me, but maybe I can look at. Oh yeah, it's Psalms 22. It's Psalms 22 verse 6. And Psalm 22, verse 6 says, "But I am a worm and not a man. I am scorned and despised by all." And what Cecilia pointed out to me that I'd never seen is that the word worm there is very, very specific. It's not like when we read this in English, we say worm, and there's lots of different kinds of worms out there. But the biblical word that's used here is a very specific kind of worm. It's known as the crimson worm. And so I will be preaching on that this Sabbath. You want to find out more about it.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Looking forward to it.
Well, my friends, that is because Randy's not here. If you're not at your work yet, just blame me.
We will have a long moment of silence as you finish your journey.
Anybody eaten at a good restaurant recently? A new one? No? Okay. Well, there you go.
Well,
I hope you're at your. We hope you're at your
out.
destination.
Randy, come back. We miss you. We need you. Feel better.
Don't get sick, Randy. Why do you want to be sick? Anyway, we hope that you are having a great week. We're delighted that you're a part of the Whole Life family. We're delighted that you come and are a part of this podcast every week. Thank you for listening. It really means a lot to us. Don't forget that there's lots of ways to reach out to us. You can email us at podcast@wholelife.church. There's also a phone number that you can find right there where you're listening to the podcast if you want to call in. And we also have a Slack channel that you can always subscribe to and send in your information, questions, things like that. So we're happy to hear from you here at Whole Life. We just want you to know that you really matter. God has a plan for your life. God cares about you very, very much. And we hope that you live in that reality this week. So have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for listening to This is Whole Life. If today's conversation resonated with you, we invite you to subscribe, share, and leave a review on your favorite listening platform. To join the conversation, send a text or voicemail to 407-965-1607 or email podcast@wholelife.church. To learn more about Whole Life Church, worship with us online or in person, visit our website, wholelife.church. Until next time, this is Whole Life.